Aujourd'hui, on va parler de la différence entre partir et sortir, deux verbes irréguliers. Partir and sortir both mean to leave. So, what is the difference? Premièrement, on va réviser les conjugaisons de ces deux verbes. Partir. Je pars. Tu pars. Il part. Nous partons. Vous partez. Ils partent. Sortir. Je sors. Tu sors. Il sort. Nous sortons. Vous sortez. Ils sortent. Partir means to leave, in a very general sense. This verb is used to say someone is leaving a large place, such as a city, country, or state. Souvent, ce verbe indique la date ou l'heure de départ. So think of it in terms of going out of town, leaving one place to go somewhere else. Mais le verbe partir ne peut pas être suivi par un objet direct. Pay attention to this. This is very important. Partir cannot be followed by a direct object. Ever, ever, ever. Instead, partir is often followed by a preposition, most often pour or de. You use pour when you're talking about the destination, so leaving for a place. La destination. You use de when you're talking about the place that you're leaving. So, important things to remember before we take a look at some examples. The two main prepositions that you use with partir are pour and de. And partir cannot be followed by a direct object. Let's take a look at some examples. Je pars pour l'Europe la semaine prochaine. I'm leaving for Europe next week. Here we're using the preposition pour because we're indicating the destination, la destination, Europe. We also indicate the date. Vous partez de Chattanooga ce weekend. You're leaving Chattanooga this weekend. Notice that in English, leaving Chattanooga, there's no preposition. However, in French, you have to have the preposition de. You have to have de because partir can never be followed by a direct object. So you can't write this sentence as Vous partez Chattanooga ce weekend. That is incorrect. Cross this out. You can never follow partir with a direct object, which would be, in this case, Chattanooga. So that is not something you can do. You have to say, vous partez de Chattanooga ce weekend. Nous partons d'Atlanta ce weekend. We are leaving Atlanta this weekend. Once again, we are using the preposition de. This time, it's shortened to de apostrophe because of the vowel that follows it, a, in Atlanta. You can also use this verb to ask and answer questions, comme par exemple, numéro 4. Quand est-ce que tu pars pour Disney World? Notice that we are using the preposition pour again. When are you leaving for Disney World? In this question, we're looking for more information. When? Quand? You could simply answer, Je pars dans 2 semaines, where you give the date of departure in 2 weeks, dans 2 semaines. You could also answer this question, Je pars pour Disney World dans 2 semaines, where you repeat the information pour Disney World. It's superfluous information, and you could drop it and just simply answer the first one, Je pars dans 2 semaines. It's more succinct and easier to answer. Another question we could ask is simply, Quand est-ce que tu pars? When are you leaving? Your answer could be, Je pars jeudi, where you give the date of departure. I'm leaving Thursday. In this case, jeudi, it's not a direct object. It's actually an adverb because you're giving more information about the verb, when. So now that we've talked about when you use partir, let's take a look at sortir and how it's different from partir. Sortir is actually used when you want to talk about leaving a building or a room or getting out of something, for example, the water. So sortir not only means to leave, it also means to get out of something or to go out, as in to go out with friends in the evening. Sortir est le contraire du verbe entrer. So instead of entering something like a room or a building, you're exiting it, you're leaving. On sort. Unlike partir, which could not take a direct object after it, sortir can. So sortir is both transitive, meaning it takes a direct object, and intransitive, when it doesn't take a direct object. It's both. You want to use the preposition de after the verb sortir when the place that this person, someone, is leaving is expressed. So, for example, Je sors de la salle de classe. De is used here because we're talking about the place that you're leaving, la salle de classe. Another example, Nous sortons de la bibliothèque. You're leaving the library, so you're going to use the preposition de because you're talking about the place that you're leaving, la bibliothèque. Or another example, Il sort de l'eau. This is an example where the verb means to get out of something, to get out of the water. He gets out of the water. Il sort de l'eau. Finally, let's take a look at a couple of examples where sortir means to go out. Je sors avec mes amis. Nous allons au cinéma. I'm going out with my friends. We're going to the movies. Elle sort souvent. She often goes out. So, if someone asks you, Tu veux sortir ce soir? You can answer, Oui, je veux sortir. So the logical next step is to decide where you want to go while you're going out. So the other person might ask back, Où est-ce que tu veux aller? So you might answer them again, Allons au cinéma. Let's go to the movies. Okay, so now that we've looked at both partir and sortir and the difference between these two verbs, let's take a look at a few more examples to see if we can figure out which verb we need in each sentence. So for the first example, I want you to think about how you would say this sentence in French and whether you would use partir or sortir. I'm going out Friday night with my friends. So first of all, let's think about whether we're going to be using the verb partir or sortir in this sentence. What do you think? In this sentence, we want to use sortir because we're talking about going out, as in going out in the evening or going out and having fun. So now that we've figured out that we want to use sortir, let's try and figure out how to say this sentence in French. We're going to use the subject, je. And then let's conjugate sortir according to je. So that's going to be S-O-R-S. Je sors, I'm going out. And then Friday night. So Friday would be, and don't capitalize Friday, vendredi soir. Friday night. And then with my friends. So avec. And then my friends, so for the possessive adjective here, we want to use the plural form. So make sure you're using mes and then mes amis because of the liaison. And let's assume it's just your girlfriends. So add an E in there. Je sors vendredi soir avec mes amis. Très bien. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. How do you think you would say, we are leaving this weekend? Now, it sounds like in this sentence we're not talking about leaving a building. We're leaving the building this weekend. That doesn't make any sense. So it's probably more like leaving as in going out of town. So in that case, what verb do you think we want to use? In this sentence, we want to use partir. So with that in mind, let's see if we can figure out this sentence. So we're going to use the subject nous for we, and then conjugate partir to go with nous. So nous, see if you can get it right. Partons, with that typical ONS ending that we've seen all the time in all of our verbs. Nous partons, and then this weekend, we haven't technically learned this, but you might know. Ce, as in this. Ce weekend, this weekend. Très bien. So were you able to see the difference between these two sentences? If not, make sure to watch the video again and study your handout. We'll talk more about this tomorrow and take a look at some more examples. Merci les filles. Au revoir.